Every day, without even realizing it, you are pulled between two forces that have shaped human life since the beginning of time: pleasure and pain. Think about the moment you hit snooze in the morning. You choose the temporary pleasure of staying in bed over the discomfort of getting up. Or the way you might open your phone when you feel anxious, reaching for the quick hit of distraction to numb the unease. These little choices feel small, but taken together, they reveal something profound about the hidden battle each of us fights daily. And this video is about uncovering that battle, showing you how ancient wisdom can help you stop being controlled by impulses you never even noticed, and instead gain balance, clarity, and mastery over yourself. The philosopher Epicurus once said, "It is not the stomach that is insatiable, but the false belief that the stomach needs filling." At first glance, it sounds like he's simply warning against overeating. But think deeper. He's pointing to how our cravings rarely come from real need. More often, they are mental illusions, false beliefs about what will satisfy us. The same can be said of so many things. The endless scrolling on social media, the compulsion to buy something new, the restless urge to check whether someone has messaged you. These aren't rooted in true necessity. They are built on illusions. And yet, we obey them. Why? Because the brain has been hardwired over thousands of years to chase pleasure and avoid pain. It's the simplest survival program imaginable. Fire burns, so we recoil. Sweet fruit nourishes, so we crave it. But here's the catch. In the modern world, this ancient program misfires constantly. We live surrounded by pleasures so immediate and so cheap that they overwhelm us, and by pains that are often more imagined than real. Your ancestors didn't have ice cream in the freezer, or Netflix on demand, or infinite notifications engineered to keep you hooked. Their pleasures were scarce and often hard-earned. Ours are everywhere, but they leave us emptier. Seneca, the Roman Stoic, described this problem nearly 2,000 years ago. He wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." What does that mean for you and me? It means most of the pain we try to avoid, the emails we procrastinate on, the awkward conversations we dodge, the workouts we skip, are not really pain. They are shadows in the mind, magnified by fear. And every time we run from those shadows, we reinforce the power of pain over us. We become weaker, not stronger. Picture this. You've had a long day, and you know you should exercise. But the thought of lacing up your shoes feels exhausting. So you settle onto the couch and watch something instead. In that moment, pleasure wins. Pain, imagined pain, the inconvenience of moving your body, was too much. Multiply that decision over a week, a month, a year, and you see how the hidden battle shapes your life. What looks like tiny choices are actually victories or defeats in the war within. The Buddhists captured this dynamic with the concept of dukkha, often translated as suffering, but more accurately described as a sense of unsatisfactoriness that permeates life. Even when we indulge in pleasure, it never lasts. The meal is over, the show ends, the new gadget gets old. Pleasure always fades, and when it does, we are left restless again. So if pleasure is fleeting and pain is constant, what are we supposed to do? The answer is balance. Not the total rejection of pleasure, not the obsessive avoidance of pain, but mastery over how these forces move us. Think about a modern example. Scrolling TikTok or Instagram. At first, it feels like pleasure, quick entertainment, endless novelty. But 20 minutes later, you feel drained, not nourished. It's as if the pleasure you reached for turned into pain without you noticing. Or take the flip side. Waking up early to study, to write, or to train. At first, it feels like pain. But later, it transforms into a deeper, more lasting pleasure. The satisfaction of progress, the pride of self-discipline, the calm that comes from knowing you did what you set out to do. The battle is not between pleasure and pain themselves, but between short-term impulses and long-term wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his Meditations, gave himself a stern reminder each morning. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. He was fighting the same war we fight every morning. The pull of the sheets is universal. But Marcus reframed the discomfort, reminding himself that he had a duty, a purpose, a higher kind of satisfaction waiting beyond the pain of getting up. That simple mental shift is part of the arsenal we will explore in this series. Because the war within is fought first in the mind. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, which enemy do you most often surrender to? Do you chase pleasures that leave you hollow? Do you flee from pains that are only shadows? Or do you swing back and forth, caught in the tug of war? Reflecting honestly on this is the first step toward balance. Because once you name your enemy, you can begin to see its patterns. And when you see the patterns, you can break them. The truth is, pleasure and pain are not really enemies at all. They are guides. Pleasure tells you what feels good. Pain tells you what costs something. But neither is the ultimate authority. You are. The tragedy is that most people never realize this. They let their cravings and their fears run the show. They spend years chasing pleasures that leave them restless and avoiding pains that would have made them strong. And by the time they see it, much of life has already slipped away. But imagine what happens when you flip the script. Imagine treating every craving not as an order you must obey, but as a signal to examine. Imagine looking at pain not as a threat, but as a test. That is what the philosophers tried to teach us. Not to eliminate pleasure and pain, but to rise above them. To turn the hidden battle into a training ground for the soul. So as we move into the rest of this journey, I invite you to look at your own life with new eyes. The next time you feel that urge to reach for the phone, or that hesitation before tackling something difficult, pause, notice, ask, is this really pleasure or is it just escape? Is this really pain or is it just fear wearing a mask? That small act of questioning may be the first spark of victory in your own war within. When you think about pleasure, what comes to mind? Maybe it's food, maybe it's sex, maybe it's entertainment, music, or the buzz of your phone lighting up with a new notification. Whatever form it takes, pleasure feels like a friend. It feels like the reward you deserve, the sweetness that makes life worth living. And in moderation, it can be. But here's the trap. When you don't understand pleasure, it owns you. It pulls your strings. It decides your actions. And the cruel joke is that most of the pleasures we chase don't actually satisfy us. They leave us restless, emptier than before, stuck in a loop of craving and disappointment. Think about the last time you scrolled social media for half an hour. Did you walk away nourished? Did you feel more alive? Or did you feel a little drained, like you had eaten junk food for the mind? The truth is, pleasure often disguises itself as fulfillment. But in reality, it's just escape. So the challenge is this. How do we stop being slaves to pleasure? How do we enjoy it without letting it rule us? That's what this chapter is about. Not rejecting pleasure altogether, not becoming an ascetic who avoids everything enjoyable, but mastering it. Learning to use pleasure wisely instead of being used by it. The philosophers gave us tools for this. And if you use them, you'll begin to feel something most people never do. The freedom of choosing your pleasures instead of being dragged around by them. Let's walk through 4 of these tools together. The first tool is deceptively simple. Pause. Every craving feels urgent. When you crave chocolate, it feels like you need it right now. When your phone buzzes, you feel you have to check it instantly. The brain screams, now, now, now. But here's what the Stoics taught. In that instant of desire, freedom is found in the pause. So the next time you feel the pull, whether it's the impulse to scroll, snack, or splurge, don't act immediately. Stop. Take 10 slow breaths. Observe the craving instead of obeying it. What happens when you pause is fascinating. Most cravings fade like waves. They rise quickly, they peak. And then, if you don't feed them, they fall away. What felt urgent a moment ago starts to feel optional. And in that space, in that pause, you reclaim your power. Epicurus himself once wrote, "If you wish to make a man wealthy, reduce his desires." And how do you reduce desires? You don't fight them with brute force. You let them reveal themselves for what they are. Illusions, shadows, passing clouds. So the first weapon is the pause. It's small, but it is everything. Here's the second tool. Substitution. Not all pleasures are equal. Some are cheap, some are deep. Cheap pleasures hit hard and fade fast. Deep pleasures may take effort, but they last. Scrolling on TikTok is cheap pleasure. Calling a close friend and laughing until your sides hurt is deep pleasure. Eating a donut is cheap pleasure. Cooking a slow meal with good ingredients and savoring every bite, that's deep pleasure. The trick is to upgrade your pleasures. Don't just fight cravings, replace them. When you feel the urge for a shallow escape, ask yourself, what is a richer pleasure I can choose instead? Instead of endless news feeds, read a book that challenges your mind. Instead of snacking mindlessly, make tea, cut fruit, or cook something with care. Instead of binge watching, create something. Write, paint, learn a skill, or simply go for a walk and notice the world around you. This is not about being a monk. It's about being wise. Cheap pleasures leave you weaker. Rich pleasures leave you fuller. So the second weapon is substitution. Replace the hollow with the nourishing. The third tool is more radical, and it's powerful. Hedonic fasting. Just as fasting sharpens your appreciation for food, abstaining from small pleasures resets your mind. We live in a world where almost every desire can be satisfied instantly. You're bored? Entertainment is one click away. You're lonely? Distraction is always in your pocket. You're hungry? Delivery can be at your door in minutes. But constant access makes us numb. Nothing feels special when everything is available all the time. The solution? Choose to step back. Pick one pleasure and fast from it. A day without sugar, a week without social media, an evening without your phone. The Stoic philosopher Seneca practiced this deliberately. Once a month, he would sleep on the floor, wear rough clothes, and eat the simplest meals. Why? To remind himself that he could live with less, to break the illusion that comfort was necessary, to reset his relationship with pleasure. When you practice hedonic fasting, you break the spell of dependence. You prove to yourself that you don't need the constant stream of stimulation. And when you return to those pleasures, you find that you actually enjoy them more. That's the paradox. The less you indulge, the more alive pleasure feels. So the third weapon is hedonic fasting. Strategic abstinence that resets your sensitivity to joy. The fourth and final tool is reframing indulgence as debt. Most of us look at pleasure in isolation. We think, this cake will taste good right now. This show will entertain me right now. This purchase will make me feel good right now. But what we forget is the cost. Every cheap pleasure borrows from tomorrow. The late-night binge steals tomorrow's energy. The overspending steals next month's freedom. The endless distraction steals your focus, your potential, your time. Time you will never get back. Here's the shift. Reframe indulgence as debt. Every time you reach for shallow pleasure, imagine swiping a credit card. The bill will come due. And when it does, you'll pay in fatigue, in regret, in lost opportunity. When you see indulgence as debt, your brain begins to weigh short-term pleasure against long-term cost. And suddenly, self-control feels less like sacrifice and more like wisdom. You're not giving something up. You're protecting your future. So the fourth weapon is reframing. See indulgence not as harmless, but as a loan with interest you'll have to repay. Now let's put the tools together. The next time you feel the pull of pleasure, don't fight it blindly. Use the pause. Take a breath. Ask, is this craving real, or is it just a passing illusion? Then use substitution. If you want to scroll, maybe pick up a book instead. If you want a snack, maybe drink of water or eat something nourishing. Upgrade the pleasure, don't just suppress it. Practice hedonic fasting. Give yourself days or hours where you step away from the constant flow of stimulation. Discover the power of living without, and feel your appreciation sharpen when you return. And finally, remember the debt. Every indulgence has a cost. The question is not, do I want this now? The question is, am I willing to pay for it later? When you weave these four tools into your life, something shifts. Pleasure no longer drags you around like a puppet. You begin to feel free. You begin to choose instead of obey. And you discover that the richest pleasures, the ones that truly satisfy, are the ones you earn, the ones you savor, the ones you enjoy with full awareness. Mastering pleasure doesn't mean living a joyless life. Far from it. It means living a life where joy is deeper, richer, more real. Think about it. Which feels better? The hollow buzz of junk food, or the satisfaction of a meal cooked with love? Which lasts longer? The shallow distraction of scrolling, or the quiet pride of finishing a workout or a project you care about? Which nourishes you more? The dopamine hit of buying something new, or the slow happiness of gratitude for what you already have? The truth is, cheap pleasure is everywhere, and most people settle for it. But deep pleasure, that requires discipline. It requires awareness. It requires choosing wisely. And that's the point. Pleasure should be a servant, not a master. It should be something you use, not something that uses you. So as you leave this chapter, remember the four tools. Pause before you act, substitute cheap for deep, fast to reset, and reframe indulgence as debt. Practice them, live them, and you'll find yourself walking a different path, a path where pleasure serves you instead of enslaving you. Because in the end, the goal is not to escape pleasure. The goal is to master it. Most people spend their entire lives running from pain. They avoid discomfort, they dodge difficulty, they hide from anything that feels unpleasant. And in doing so, they forget the oldest truth known to philosophy, to psychology, and even to biology. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the forge. It is the forge that shapes us, toughens us, burns away weakness, and leaves behind strength. But here's the problem. Our brains are hardwired to avoid it. Thousands of years of evolution taught us that pain equals danger, and danger equals death. Touch a flame, pull your hand back. Step on a thorn, stop walking. Feel cold or hunger, seek comfort, food, warmth. This reflex kept our ancestors alive. But in the modern world, it betrays us. Because today, most of the pain we avoid isn't real danger. It's imagined. It's discomfort. It's the sting of embarrassment, the sweat of effort, the awkwardness of honesty. Not lethal threats, just shadows. Seneca once wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of the pain you run from is a phantom. So here's the challenge. If you want to grow, if you want freedom, you need to stop running from pain and start embracing it. You need to learn how to lean into discomfort, how to reframe it, how to use it as fuel instead of fear. In this chapter, I'll give you 4 tools to do exactly that. The first tool is reframing. Think of the gym. When your muscles burn during a workout, is that pain a threat? No, it's growth. The discomfort is literally the signal that your body is adapting, getting stronger. Without that strain, you stay weak. The same is true everywhere else in life. The sting of rejection, the heat of embarrassment, the ache of effort, these are not punishments. They are training sessions. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, said it best. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every obstacle, every discomfort, every pain is secretly an opportunity to grow. The obstacle is not blocking the path, it is the path. So here's the mental shift. Stop labeling pain as something bad. Start labeling it as training. Instead of saying, "This hurts, I can't handle it," say, "This is training. This is the rep I need. This is the weight that will make me stronger." Reframing doesn't remove the pain, but it transforms your relationship with it. Suddenly, you're not a victim of discomfort. You're an athlete in training, using it as fuel. The second tool is microdosing discomfort. You don't need to seek out huge suffering to grow. You don't need to walk across deserts or starve yourself or climb mountains. Growth happens through small, deliberate doses of discomfort every day. Wake up when the alarm rings instead of hitting snooze. Take the stairs when you could take the elevator. Finish the last rep when your muscles are screaming. Speak up when it would be easier to stay silent. Tell the truth when a lie would protect your ego. These small acts are like calluses for the soul. Every time you choose the harder path, you thicken your skin. You build resilience. And over time, those microdoses add up into real toughness. Think of it like inoculation. Just as a small dose of a virus makes your immune system stronger, small doses of discomfort make your mind and body more resilient. So don't wait for life to throw massive pain at you. Train yourself with microdoses. Build the habit of choosing discomfort when it matters. Because then, when life does bring bigger challenges, you'll be ready. The third tool is about facing fear head-on. I call it the shadow test. Here's how it works. Whenever you feel resistance to doing something, whether it's sending an email, making a call, starting a project, or having a difficult conversation, stop and write down what you're afraid of. Then ask yourself, what is the worst that can realistically happen? 9 times out of 10, the answer is something laughably small. Maybe you'll feel awkward. Maybe someone won't reply. Maybe you'll sweat through your shirt. Maybe you'll be tired tomorrow. That's it. That's the pain you've been running from. A shadow. And once you see it on paper, the shadow loses its power. Because now you're not fighting some vague, monstrous fear. You're facing something specific, something finite, something you can handle. Try it. The next time you find yourself procrastinating, avoiding, resisting, take out a notebook and do the shadow test. Write the fear, name the worst-case scenario, and then ask, can I survive that? Almost always, the answer is yes. And once you know that, the resistance shrinks, the shadow dissolves, and action becomes possible. The fourth and final tool is the most powerful. Seeing pain as currency. Think about it. Every worthwhile thing in life has a price. Strength has a price. Wisdom has a price. Discipline has a price. And that price is always some form of discomfort. The pain of training buys you strength. The pain of study buys you knowledge. The pain of honesty buys you trust. The pain of discipline buys you freedom. Pain is not punishment. Pain is the currency of growth. And the question you need to ask yourself is not, how do I avoid pain? But, what am I willing to pay for? Are you willing to pay in sweat for health? Are you willing to pay in awkwardness for truth? Are you willing to pay in effort for mastery? Once you see pain as currency, the whole game changes. Suddenly, discomfort stops feeling like something unfair. It becomes an investment. It becomes proof that you are purchasing something valuable with your effort. And every time you feel pain, you can remind yourself, I am paying for something worth it. Let's bring these tools together. First, reframe pain as training. Stop seeing it as punishment. Start seeing it as the forge where you grow stronger. Second, microdose discomfort. Train yourself daily with small acts of effort and courage. Build resilience 1 rep at a time. Third, do the shadow test. Face your fears directly, write them down, and see how small they really are. And finally, see pain as currency. Remember that every bit of discomfort is an investment in something bigger, something better, something lasting. When you weave these practices into your life, pain transforms. It stops being a monster you run from, and it becomes a mentor you learn from. It becomes a guide. It becomes the very path to freedom. Here's the paradox. When you embrace pain, it stops feeling like pain. The cold shower that once felt unbearable starts to feel invigorating. The workout that once felt like torture becomes the highlight of your day. The awkward truth that once terrified you brings relief and authenticity. Because pain, when faced willingly, transforms into pride, into growth, into freedom. The Buddhists captured this truth with the concept of dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness of life. They taught that suffering is inescapable. But if suffering is inevitable, then the question is not whether you will face pain, but what you will do with it. Most people waste it. They run from it, numb it, bury it. But the wise, they use it. They let pain carve them into something greater. And that's the gift. Pain shows you who you really are. It tests you. It sharpens you. It frees you from illusions and reveals your strength. So the next time you feel discomfort rising, pause. Remember, this is training. This is the representative. This is the price. This is the path. Because the truth is simple. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the forge. And if you embrace it, it will give you something far greater than comfort ever could. It will give you freedom. You now hold two weapons in your hands, the ability to master pleasure and the courage to embrace pain. With these, you are no longer a servant to impulses. You are no longer tossed back and forth by cravings and fears you cannot name. You begin to live as the ancients taught, not as a prisoner of circumstance, but as the master of yourself. But remember this: mastery is not a one-time victory. It is a daily battle. Each morning when the alarm rings, the war begins again. Each time you feel the pull of distraction or the weight of discomfort, the forces of pleasure and pain test you. And each time you choose, consciously, deliberately, you reclaim a little more freedom. Ask yourself, which life would you rather live? The easy life that leaves you restless, chasing pleasures that never last? Or the disciplined life, where every discomfort is an investment, every sacrifice a step toward strength, every choice a vote for the person you want to become? The philosophers were not offering abstract theories. They were handing down strategies for survival. They knew what you know now, that the greatest prison is built not of stone, but of habits. Habits of indulgence, habits of avoidance. And the greatest freedom is not found in the absence of pain, but in the ability to face it without fear. So the next time you stand at the crossroads, between comfort and challenge, between indulgence and discipline, remember, the war within is where freedom is won. Master pleasure. Embrace pain. And in doing so, you will rise above both into the only state that matters, self-mastery. Because as Epicurus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. And freedom, true freedom, is not out there. It is here. It is now. And it is yours to claim. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to Aletheon Mindset. Here, we don't chase comfort. We forge clarity, discipline, and freedom. The war within is waiting. Pick up your weapons. Join us.